Tradition by C.A. Wynn. It's how they used to do it on Earth, he told her. Anwyl's forehead furrowed. I've never been to Earth. A smile broke across his face. Neither have I. Is it warm there? She asked. He nodded as he pulled the blanket up toward her chin. Yes, very warm, so I'm told. I wish it was warm here, she said. He kissed her head. I know, sweetie. He stood and backed into the hallway, leaving the door open enough to let some light in. Good night. Love you. I love you too, Daddy, she said. He closed his eyes and smiled to himself. Even before they'd lost Rebecca, Anwyl's voice had become his bright spark in an otherwise dim universe. Back in the living room, he sat down across from the window. Outside stood the tree, its artificial limbs rising toward the star-filled sky. Lights flickered across the sparse shape. Behind the tree was Dysnomia, the yellow gas giant, its rings lit from the star just below the horizon. Silence settled over him. It was times like these when he wished he had a clock that ticked. He'd never actually seen one, but he knew about the constant sound. He'd have settled for the hum of ventilation. Life on this moon could be lonely for more than its isolation. The lack of sounds and smells often got to him. If not for Anwyl, he wouldn't have stayed. The lights of the tree flickered. The pictures he'd seen had green and red lights. All he had available were replacements for facility lights. They ended up taking on the yellow of the planet hovering above the horizon. What will you do when she's grown? Rebecca had asked. He remembered what he had told Rebecca when she asked the same question. I'll do whatever I can to survive. That didn't seem enough anymore. If she were still around, still alive, she wouldn't let him do what little it took. She would insist on more. But she's not alive, he said, the sound of his own voice jolting him awake. Daddy? Anwyl called from the hall. She had risen, her robe pulled tight around her small frame, one hand held up against the light in the room. Deri glanced at the clock. It was later than he thought. He must have fallen asleep again. He rose and swept her into his arms. What is it, Anne? What's the matter? I could hear you two talking, she said, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Did I say something, sweetheart? It wouldn't be the first time he'd been talking in his sleep. You and Mommy were talking, she said. He'd been dreaming of Rebecca again. You heard Mommy? She was asking what you would do when she grew up, she said. He studied her. Honey, you are probably just dreaming. Anwyl shook her head. I could hear her. What did she sound like? He asked. Like she always sounds, Anwyl said. Deri frowned. Sweetie, you know Mommy isn't here, right? But she is here. She's always here, Anwyl said. He brushed the hair from her face. She's always in our hearts. You're right about that. No, I mean she's always here, Anwyl said. He moved his nose close to hers and squinted. What's going on in that little brain of yours? She squinted in response, holding still until a smile broke out. He laughed softly. You know you have to go back to bed, right? Anwyl frowned. But I wanted to stay up to see the tree change. She moved her head to the side to look out the window. Deri hugged her closer, resting his chin on her hair as he looked toward the window. There stood the tree, unchanged, its lights still flickering. Dysnomia continued its transit of the sky, higher now than it had been. Mommy likes that you put the tree out there, she said, almost a whisper in his ear. Does she now? He asked. She said she's going to fix it, make it pretty, Anwyl said. He turned to look at her. Don't you think it's pretty now? Yes, I do. Her eyes grew large with earnestness. And Mommy does too. But she says it's missing something. Really? Mommy said that? He asked. She said it's the prettiest tree on Achlys. Deri laughed. Sweetie, it's probably the only tree on Achlys. I know, but it's our tree, she said. That's true, he said. And Mommy is going to make it beautiful, Anwyl said. As Deri looked deep into his daughter's eyes, he felt a tension rise in his forehead. These conversations never seemed to get easier. Maybe one day she would come to understand, to accept her mother's passing. The tension sharpened. When the tears finally came, he wasn't sure if they were for Anwyl or Rebecca. Baby girl, you know Mommy isn't coming back, right? She doesn't have to. She's already here, she said. Pulling her close, he squeezed. He allowed the tears to flow for a few moments before wiping his eyes with his sleeve. See, Daddy? Anwyl said, her arm raised toward the window. As he lifted his head, he saw something that couldn't possibly happen. The tree's lights were no longer plain and pale. They were bright greens and reds. How? His voice trailed off. Mommy said she would make it better, Anwyl said. With the nearby planet's light as its backdrop, the small artificial tree had come to life in vivid color. Mommy did that? He asked. Anwyl shook her head and smiled. End of Tradition by C.A.Wynn.